Hey, we're back. It's Friday. Let's do some form checks. Hey guys, welcome back to another Form Check Friday. I'm Paul. As always, Clint is sleeping next to me. I gotta get a camera. I gotta get a Clint cam so we can just watch him peacefully stare at me and wonder who the hell I'm talking to. Thank you guys for joining me again. I'm happy to be here. We got a good group, some new people, a couple quick announcements for this week. The big one is, and I'm glad I waited an extra half hour to film this, because Amazon just delivered my first proofs of the paperback version of Radically Simple Muscle. So you guys asked for it, and it was originally an ebook, but some of you guys wanted the paper version, so I went ahead and did it. And honestly, as painful as formatting a book is, it looks pretty good. So I don't know that I have to make any revisions. Normally this is you submit it and then you get a proof and it sucks and you have to go in and make all these changes and then order another proof and it takes another week and you go back and forth until you get it right. But I think I learned enough from publishing Radically Simple Strength that I got it. So I'm going to give it a once over this weekend and make sure that it looks decent, and otherwise it'll be ready to go on Amazon. If you've ordered if you already paid for the ebook version, I'm going to put the updated sort of version 2 PDF and ebook files into the Gumroad account that you bought it from. So you'll be able to go in and just download the updated version for free. Not many changes, except I put my Radically Simple Essentials program in this book with some descriptions on how to progress it. And I've made some tweaks to that program since the video came out that I put on YouTube about my training experiment. I've sort of refined it. I've stripped it down even more. So it was like 2 sets per exercise. And now I'm just doing 1 set per exercise. And I think I've screwed myself because I don't think I'm ever going back to like multiple sets. So everything's been progressing really well on the assistance exercise front. So like dips and curls and stuff, those are progressing with just 1 set. And then basically anytime one of them gets stuck, I just add a back off, and like next week it starts moving again. So the big lifts are the squat, bench is going up, but the deadlift and the squat are kind of there. I'm not losing any strength, but it's a slow progression. So I have to see this week if this week's kind of be the deal breaker. So if I break through these plateaus, then it's all good. If not, I'm going to have to add some back offsets just to get more volume. But man, the workouts are like 35 minutes at most. And, I'm feeling good. I miss training, so I'm looking forward to the workouts. I know I only have a 30-minute block to do it, and so I'm kind of fired up in there. I'm putting a lot of intensity into like getting everything I can out of that 1 set, and I'm really enjoying it. So I put that in this new version, and like I said, if you've already picked it up, you'll be able to download it. I'll send out an email and post some social media stuff on when it's available, when to get it, and then you'll have the updated version. So that's the big one for me, and we are going to get right into your form checks now and see who we can help this week. So as you guys know, I have not seen any of these. This is all happening in real time for me, and I think we got some guys who are coming back for, we've been working on them for a couple weeks, and then I think we got a couple new people, so maybe 1 or 2. So happy to be here, and let's get into it. All right, Georgie, I think that's right. Georgie, yeah. Okay, let's see what we got here. Hey, Paul, here is 193 kilos, 419 pounds. Thank you so much for doing the conversion for me. It's so useful. Okay, so 419 and on the deadlift, 90% of your 1 rep max. I sometimes tend to shift my weight forward onto my toes in the first rep of a heavy set. It used to be worse in lifting shoes, usually better in slippers, but not this time. P.S. The previous time I posted a couple weeks ago, I was indeed at Brussels Barbell. Steve says hi. Thanks. Love Steve. And I reference his videos on here all the time because he makes great instructional content. So if you guys, you know, sometimes hearing me explain something, reading the way Ripito explains something, hearing another coach explain something, you got to take in a lot of inputs because you're looking for the phrase, the wording that makes it click for you. And if it's not working with the cues I'm giving you, then sometimes taking in some other sources really helps. Like just the way that they say it differently, it just registers. And like, so, you know, as with anything you're trying to learn, take in as many qualified resources as you can. And Steve's a great resource for that kind of stuff. And he makes pretty slick videos. So, okay, let's take a look at this deadlift and see what we're dealing with. And we will kill the volume here. All right, let's go back, and I'm gonna watch a few of these, and I'll chime in when I think I've got something for you. Okay, so you are forward, my man, like real forward. And you got rid of the heels in your shoes, which is not something I usually advocate. I've only had, oh wow, okay. Let's look at that. Let me see if I can zoom in here. I don't want captions or audio. All right, let's see if I can zoom in. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna pay attention to the bar on your shins. Maybe look right about here. And what you're gonna see when I hit play is that bar is gonna swing off, and you're gonna see a little gap in here. I'm guessing. That's what I thought I caught. So let's see how this looks if I play it. And why can't I play it? I have to go down here. I thought I could just like hit spacebar. Play. There we go. Huh? There we go. Okay. So watch that. See that? Even you can see your heel lift up a little bit. So, all right, let's go back and take the whole thing in, and I'll tell you how to fix this. I mean, overall, your form looks pretty decent. This is all just a matter of you've got too much weight on your toes. So you see that? It swings out a little bit, and then the bar path is not a vertical line, which is what we want. So you would be... yeah, you're pushing that way. Okay, so as you're preparing to come up off the ground here, let me see if I can find a screenshot where, okay, you even bumped it right there. So when you set your back, you nudge the bar even more forward, but your weight is going this way. And as you pull, you're gonna push this way. So you're relying on your quads a lot, but everything's going forward, okay? And so this is a weight distribution problem, which is very common in the deadlift. Now, the only time I like pulling in my shoes, and I recommend it for almost all of my clients. The only time I've pulled guys out of their shoes is if they just cannot get off their toes. So you might be a candidate for that. The thing I noticed when I was trying to pull barefoot was my feet just started aching. When the weights got heavy enough, like my feet were just getting beat to hell. So the argument obviously for shoes is the heel gives you a little bit more access to your quads, you know, so you can push a little harder. The trade-off, or the other side of the argument, is that it lifts your foot up. So so it's a longer distance. I think that's negligible, and I think the pop you get from the quads, or the power that you can generate with that little bit of extra quad push, negates the small distance of the heel. So it really doesn't matter. It's whatever you're more comfortable with. In your case though, whether you pull in shoes or you continue to pull flat foot in slippers, you need to shift your weight back more. Okay. So everything here is forward, and all you have to do is rock back that way just a little bit, not your head, but like this whole system, just just, if you're here like this, like wanting to go that way, you're just gonna rock it back. Now, notice I didn't say change any of the angles. Don't drop your butt. Don't make your back more vertical. Just shift the weight on your foot so that you got 60% of the weight on your heels. So imagine right now, if this is the surface of your foot, right here, right? I'm gonna let those lines clear. You've got too much weight here and not enough weight here, okay? Not enough weight back here on the heel. So all you have to do is change the pressure gradient, right? Right now it's like this, if this is your foot, and we just want it to be back here like this. So when you do that, your back angle is not going to change. You're not going to close the knee angle. Nothing's going to change about your setup. It's just going to be like a 2-inch shift back. It's very, very subtle, but you need to make sure that you've got a little bit more weight on your heels. So like I said, 60% of the weight on your heels, the pressure on the heels, 40% on the balls of the feet. Just get off your toes, okay? So the way I like to incorporate that, my pattern is breathe, squeeze, pause, pull, right? Take a breath, squeeze your chest up, pause, and then pull. And when I say pull, it's really a push, right? Because we're using the quads here. So when you set the bar down, so let's see if we can go back through and I can walk you through how I would set this up. So we'll watch a rep and then I'll pause it when you put it down. Okay. All right. So here, right now you're resetting the next rep. So the first thing I would do is get your hips up in the air when yours are pretty high right now. So they're probably exactly where they need to be. Roll the bar back to your shins, make sure it's in contact with your shins. And then before you start the breathe, squeeze, pause, pull, you're going to rock back onto your heels. Okay. So you're going to, before you even expend any energy trying to set your back, because once you set your back, the clock's ticking. It's hard to set your back. It takes a lot of effort. So you want to take care of as many ancillary things before you actually have to do that hard thing of setting your back. So you're going to roll the bar back to your shins, and then you're going to shift your weight back so that you've got more pressure on your heels. And then once you've got that, you're like, okay, I've got a little bit more weight on my heels than my toes. Okay, now I'm going to keep it here and I'm going to breathe, squeeze my chest up, pause, and push, right? Pull, get the bar off the ground, okay? So that's it. Just get off your toes, keep everything else the same, and that little swing, that part where it breaks contact with your shins, that'll go away. It'll drag right up your legs. And then keep that in mind, right? Anytime you're pulling a deadlift and you notice that the bar breaks contact as soon as you start to push, it swings off your shins, you were on your toes. That's what that means, okay? It either means you opened up your hip angle and tried to first before the knee angle, right? So in the deadlift, the knees extend, then the hips extend. If the hips extend before the knees, the bar will pendulum away from you, but you're not doing that. This is purely just you've got the weight in the wrong place. So shift back onto your heels a little bit so you're on your toes and you're never going to get off them. And then you're going to set your back with your weight on your toes and everything's forward and it breaks contact. Okay? So again, it's very, very subtle. It's just a little rock back. I mean, it's like going from here to here, but you'll feel the difference on your foot. And then you take a breath and then you squeeze your chest up and then you pause and then you pick the bar up off the ground. Okay? Other than that, man, I think these look great. This is a heavy deadlift, so good for you. But yeah, so you dropped your butt there. So if you watch your butt, you see how you drop your butt and that actually bumps the bar forward even more. Okay, so instead of dropping your butt, keep your hips there. And before you set your back, rock back, and then leave your hips high. Don't drop them. Squeeze your chest up, and this thing will drag right up your legs. Okay? Cool, man. Dig it. And it looks like, I don't know if you might be using straps, but if you're not, good for you. Overall looks good. Thanks for submitting, and feel free to post another one next week, and we'll take another look. And say hi to Steve for me. Okay. Here we go. And thank you guys for checking each other's videos. That's really cool. Making sure that they're available for me to see. Okay, we got another guy here. Monkahpup. I'm probably saying that wrong. Okay. Hi, deadlift update. This is 150 150 kilos, dropped from 165, heavy set on the intermediate B program. Things I've noticed, excuse me, when I'm setting my hips higher, more horizontal back angle, I'm finding that I'm struggling to feel heavy hands and get the tension I need to contract my lats. Okay. I'm struggling to keep my back set. I can see it in the video, and I really noticed on the last rep, I really noticed on the last rep. Okay. Last rep, you know, it's your last rep. So you get a little wiggle room there. I'm wondering what I do with my programming while I unlearn the bad habits I've picked up in terms of progress, weight deload. Also, do you think halting deadlifts might be a useful assistance exercise to help me develop my leg back extension off the floor, leg drive back extension off the floor? Thanks as always for your help. Okay, I hate haltings. I hate haltings. I hate rack pulls. I don't think they do anything. I really don't. Now, you know, I'm a mediocre deadlifter, so maybe I don't know what I don't know, but I have played with both of them and incorporated them into my training, and I never got anything out of them. So my radically simple approach to this stuff is if I want my deadlift to get better, I'm just going to deadlift more. And if I need a lighter version of a deadlift, I'll just deadlift lighter so that I practice the actual movement that I'm trying to perfect. Rather than splitting it up into like a halting, they're just miserable, and a rack pull, which is like, it's like a different exercise. If you haven't rack pulled and then you try to rack pull, you know, arguably most people would say that you should be able to pull a set of 5 rack pulls with your 1 rep max deadlift. The first time you try that, if you put your 1 rep max on a rack pull height and it won't come off the pins. It's a different thing you have to learn before you can actually do that. So I just never really got anything out of them. So I'd rather just pull a lighter deadlift if it's a stress issue that I need to deal with. So no, I don't recommend haltings. That doesn't mean they won't work for you. That doesn't mean they're not a good exercise. You're certainly welcome to try them and find out for yourself whether you think you get anything out of them. But let's take a look at, I don't really recommend them. I never program them. I hate them personally. Okay. All right, let's see what we're dealing with here. All right. Back extension looks good. Oh, we got people walking in front of the camera. Okay, whatever. All right. I think your stance is a little wide. I'm just kind of nitpicking something that sticks out to me right now. And the reason that you're having a hard time holding your back is because you're trying to pick the bar up off the ground with your back and not use your legs. Okay? So let's see here. Yeah, so it's unlocking. Okay? Oh, you're gonna keep going? How are we doing here? See, okay. I don't know if you saw that, but that bar swung off your legs. Okay, so if we watch here, watch the bar right there. See it? Boop. Swings forward just like the last guy. Okay. So a couple things here. Let me see. So we'll start with the easy stuff. Your stance. I would narrow your stance. I think you will do better with a narrower stance. I like to go about 6 inches between the heels. Okay. And what that does is it allows you to, you know, if you keep a decent toe angle, 15 degrees or so, bring the stance in, and then you can push the knees out hard into the elbows. And you can actually pull yourself down. You can kind of nestle your belly in between your thighs if you push them out of the way a little bit more, and bring the whole system lower. Okay, don't change it. Don't change the angle. Just kind of wiggle your belly down deeper between your thighs so the whole system's lower, and that'll give you more slack in your lumbar spine to contract those spinal erectors. Okay, So you just drop the whole thing down a little bit by kind of nestling your belly between your thighs. So the closer the feet, and then you're gonna compensate with a little more angle and push the thighs out of the way to make room. I just like that stance. I feel like it having the knees out also pulls in more of the adductor muscles, right? Your groin. So you're gonna have a little bit more power because you're using more of those. So that's always helpful to have more muscle mass involved. All right, that's the easy one. Now, what else do we got to talk about? So yeah, maybe just bring your feet like an inch closer together. No big deal. Now, you'll notice that you set your back really well there, okay? But we're early in the set, so that's a real good arch. And we'll talk about why you can't hold it in a second. But this is very common. As we get towards the end of the set, you're just not going to set as hard because you're tired. Okay, so the arch here, that's upper back. Let's see how you do. See, it's very subtle, but this is a little bit more round than it was in the earlier rep. And that's just like, it just happens because you're tired, right? But the trick is to get better at this is to know that, hey, when I get to rep, towards the end of the set, I stop arching my low back as hard. And so what I need to do is try even harder to arch my low back later in the set. I'm usually good for the first 2 or 3 reps. And then I start kind of slacking and I get it like a little set, but not as set as it could be or as arched as it could be. So now when you get to rep 4 or 5 or whatever, just know, okay, I'm going to try even harder to arch my lower back. Okay. Not just your upper back. All right. Now let's talk about the main issue with with why you can't hold your back. Okay. And that is because you're trying to pick this bar up with hip extension. Okay. So in the deadlift, like I just said in the last video, let's see if I'll pause this when you get set. Okay. So you've got 2 joints that are moving. You've got your knees. Okay. You've got the knee angle like that, this angle right here, and you've got the hip angle. Okay. This one right here. So both of those joints have to extend for you to pick up the deadlift or pick up the bar. And they have to do it in a particular order if this bar is going to move up in a straight line. And that order is knee extension first. Okay, so the knee angle is going to open. And then once the bar gets a few inches off the ground, then you can start opening up this hip angle. Okay, but for the first few inches, this section right here doesn't change. This angle doesn't change. It just, the whole thing moves up because you are just pushing with the legs. You're using the quads to get this thing off the ground. Okay? So what's happening here, and it's, again, you're a man of subtlety. So it's very subtle, but you are trying to start this by lifting your chest up a little bit. Okay, you're trying to use your lumbar spine here to pick it up off the ground, to pull it off the ground with your low back without the adequate help from the quads. Now remember, you got these big, heavy, thick muscles in your legs, your quads, and they're real good at pushing. So stop thinking about the deadlift as a pull, right? Because you pull things with your back, and start thinking about it as a push. It's a push with the legs, like a leg press machine. Like you're sitting in a leg press machine and you're just pushing. So the first few inches, this stays, that angle doesn't change, and you just drive you just push your feet down into the floor. You push, okay? And then once you get the bar off the ground, then you can start bringing your hips in or opening up your hips, okay? But you're trying to pick it up off the ground using your low back, and your low back can't handle that by itself. It's real good. The spinal erectors are real good at, contracting and holding isometrically, and then allowing you, they will keep the back segment rigid while you start this thing with your quads. But if you try and pick up the bar with hip extension by lifting your chest and opening up your hips, those spinal erectors can't handle that. And so they're immediately going to get soft. And that's what we're seeing here. Again, very subtly, okay? but you are trying to start this thing with hip extension, okay? And not pure knee extension. So if we watch here and you watch your hips, right? You see how you're kind of lifting your chest up a little bit? My dog is dreaming. Clint, hey. Okay, sorry, buddy. So you're trying to, and that's why it swings away, right? If you watch this last rep and you watch the bar on your shins, when you start to lift your chest, the bar will pendulum away from you, right? That's what's happening, okay? So we'll go here, and let me see if I can zoom in, and we watch right here. There we go. See that? See it break contact? Okay, that's because you're trying to lift your chest up. You're trying to start this thing by just opening up your hips, okay? Instead of keeping that segment still and pushing with the legs, okay? So there's, like I said in the last form check, guy had the same issue of the bar swinging away, but different reason. And I said there's two reasons. This is perfect because his reason was his weight was on his toes. So he was pushing, he had too much weight on the toes, which causes the bar to swing off the shins. The other way that can happen is your weight is perfectly balanced, but you try and lift your chest and that swings the bar away from you. Okay, so the fix is lock your back and just push the floor away from you. Don't change this angle at all until the bar gets closer to your knee. Okay, and that's it, man. And if you do that, then your legs are doing the hardest part, which is to break this thing off the floor. You're using quads to do that and no hip extension. So all the spinal erectors have to do is hold, right? They just hold and they're real good at that. And they can hold this weight locked. But if you try and make them lift this weight off the ground from the floor, forget it. They're going to go soft. They can't handle that by themselves. They need the quads. Okay? So keep the angle, and the first few inches are pure knee extension. It's a leg press. You're just standing up, but you're doing a leg press. You push, and then you open up your hips, and you'll be good to go. All right, now let me see what your questions were about programming, because the question is, do I take weight off the bar? I'm struggling to keep my back set. I'm wondering what to do programming as I unlearn bad habits. And I picked up, okay, so my advice is I would not take weight off the bar. Remember, I don't like taking weight off the bar because unless you got a real bad problem that cannot be fixed because the muscles didn't keep up, right? So if your knees are caving in and you've just never fixed it and you kept adding weight, those adductors, the external rotators never got stronger. And so you have to take weight off until they catch up. In your case, you probably have the strength to do this correctly. You just have to prioritize. You got to get the movement right. So I would not take weight off the bar. I would practice all of your warm-ups and just practice I would drill the form with your warm-ups. You can also add a light back offset, like a light back offset. So you do your heavy set and then it is what it is. Hopefully you fixed it, but if not, it's okay. And then you can add a lighter back offset, maybe 80% or something like that for a set of 5, just to practice the pattern. Cause it's a pattern error. It's a, what muscles start this thing? Okay. How do I push this off the ground with my legs and not try and pick it up with my back? And if you can just get that feeling right, you probably don't have to take any weight off the bar. You definitely don't have to do haltings. Although in your case, if you put 135 on the bar, maybe 225, or you're in kilos, so you can do the conversion, but 60 kilos, something like that, 80 kilos. And you just did a couple reps where you set your back like you were ready to do it. And then you just push a few inches off the ground with the legs, maintaining the back angle, and put the bar back down just as a drill so that you feel the right, okay, this is what gets the bar off the ground, my legs. I don't lift my chest, right? That's fine. But I don't think you need to incorporate heavy haltings into your program. I think you just need to practice with leg drive, pushing with the quads first, and then opening up the hips. So it's knees extend, then hips extend, and then on the way down, it's hips flex, then knees flex in that order, and the bar will come straight up and down. Okay? So take those notes, practice it, see what you can do, see if you can, and if you want to post a lighter set or something like that, but remember, don't take weight off the bar for no reason, right? Like heavy weight teaches you how to fix things sometimes that lightweight can't. You can get away with murder with lightweight, but with heavyweight, like you have to do it right, and you will know when you don't, because the sticking points and the errors will be much more dramatic with heavyweight. So, and the rep, when you get it right, the rep will be way faster than when you did a rep incorrectly, and you'll be able to square those differences or notice those differences in your set. So, you earned every pound you're putting on that bar. So do not give it up without a fight, right? And too many guys just like, oh, my form's a little off, so I got to take, I got to reset, take 10% off the bar, and then you're just wasting time. Like sometimes that's appropriate, but I've made that mistake way too many times of just like not thinking. Part of it's fear, part of it's looking for an excuse to lift lighter weights because the heavy ones are scary. But just, the more you can address your technique issues without taking weight off the bar, the quicker you're going to get past where you're getting stuck right now. So weight off the bar should be your last resort. See if you can fix it in your warm-ups. See if you can pull your warm-up, all your warm-ups perfectly. And then when you're in your work set, maybe you don't have the strength to pull all 5 perfectly because it's your limit, but try and maybe you can do 1 or 2 perfectly. And then maybe the next time you try and get 3 perfect and 4. That's a better approach than giving up weight that you fought really hard to get on there. Okay. So minor issues, bring the stance in, but the main one is just switch how you think about what gets this bar off the ground, and you should be good to go. All right, man. Good luck. Keep an eye out for another video next week, and we'll keep dialing it in. Thank you very much. Okay. Oh, and thank you for cutting down your description. I appreciate that. All right. Kyriakos. Let's see what Kyriakos has for us this week. Heavy deadlift from last week. Last time you told me to set up a bit further from the bar and try to use my quads a bit more, just like what I was telling the last guy. That's what I was going for here, and first 3 reps felt actually good. Back could have been in better extension, but working on it. Looking forward to Friday. Kyriakos. All right, buddy. Let's see what we got here. All right. So we'll watch a few of these. Good back extension. Nice, man. This is much better than last time. I mean, you're getting a little flexion in there, but like your low back is staying good. I like it. Okay, that little dip right there, little scoop. Watch your hips on this one. See how your butt kind of tucks under and your back starts to round? Let me see if I can slow this down for you. Excuse me. All right, watch. I'm paying attention to this area right here, okay? And what we're going to see is this is going to kind of scoop under here like this as this tries to lift up that way, right? And remember, that's not what we want. What we want is this stays even and both hips and shoulders, that whole segment moves up at the exact same rate for the first few inches. That means we're pushing off the ground with your quads. This angle right here should not change for a few inches. This should not lift up, okay? And when I see this tuck under like that, we're gonna see this go up also, meaning you're trying to pull it with your back. And we've talked about that before. So I slowed this down, but let's watch your hips right here and see what happens. See that little, right? The knees go forward a little bit, the upper back rounds a little bit, the whole back rounds a little bit. You kind of scoop underneath it. That's not what we want. And it's not bad, but it shows me the error that we've seen with you before. This is definitely a lot better than it has been. So good work. Yeah, And that's why your back's going soft, just like the last guy, okay? So if you keep your chest out over the bar like this, and you maintain this angle right here, and all your focus is on pushing down with your quads, okay? You're using your legs to push straight down. That, wherever that bar is under your chest, right? Like your chest is here, the bar's here. And that's a bad line, okay? We want your chest to stay in that exact same position over the bar. So if you imagine that you've got, wherever you've got a little laser pointer here, and when you're setting up for a deadlift, it's pointing directly at the top of the barbell, okay? So you got this distance here between the two, okay? So the goal is that you're gonna push off the ground, and that laser beam is gonna be pointed at the same position on the bar for the first few inches. Okay, now if this is the bar, right? Now if you drop your butt and lift your chest, okay, the laser's gonna be pointing up here, right? So that means you're changing the back angle. You're trying to pick the bar up with your low back again, by opening up your hips with hip extension instead of pure knee extension. Hip extension happens after the bar gets a few inches off the ground. Then you can start changing the back angle, making it more vertical. But for the first few inches, it's this, okay? It's not this, it's this. And the way that you do that is you just push with the legs. So keep your chest out over the bar, keep covering that same spot, and push straight down, okay? And it may help you to think about keeping your eyes like right here. Like you can bring them a little closer to you so you're almost looking straight down, and just stare at that spot. You can put a little piece of tape right there, and having that eye gaze distance closer to your feet is gonna make it much more apparent that this is just a standing leg press. You're just trying to increase the distance between this spot and the bar by pushing, okay? We're not changing the angle, we're increasing the distance this way, okay? It's just legs. But everybody today, well, the last two guys, you guys are just trying to pick up the bar with opening up your hips too soon. And like I said with the last form check, your spinal erectors can't handle that. They can't handle that much of the workload. The quads have to do that part. And if you make the low back do it, it's going to come unlocked. But it can hold it, and it can hold it perfectly flat while your legs get it started, and then it'll stay flat for the hip extension part. Okay? That's really, and I would see that you even see the bar kind of swing away from you when you do that, right? Watch the plates on the bar. See that little whoop, same thing as the last guy, right? You lift your chest, bar swings away from you. So if you notice from one rep to the next that the bar swung off your legs a little bit, right? It broke contact with your shins as soon as you started pushing. You're trying to open up your hips too soon instead of pushing with the legs. I would suggest pulling in your shoes. I think if you have weightlifting shoes, which I hope you have, I'm trying to cue you to use more quads. And so the elevated heel is going to give you more access to those quads, right? It's going to give you, you're going to be able to push a little bit harder, and that's what we want. So pulling barefoot, the only time I would have someone do that is if they can't get off their toes. You don't have a problem with that. You're not on your toes. So I would pull in the heel. It also feels better on your feet. So put your shoes on, try that, and then just focus on the first few inches. It's all legs. The back just does this. The back does not do this. Push and then open up your hips. Extend the knees and then extend the hips in that order. And you should be good, man. But this is a lot better. The only reason, like I said, that you're getting this unlocking is just because you're trying to make your low back do all the work off the ground. Okay? It's good. I dig it. Good work. Looking a lot better. Throw up another one next week and we'll keep dialing it in. But hopefully, practice with your lighter weight. Practice really focused on perfect form with all your warm-ups. Push. You're pushing the floor away from you. Okay, let's move on. Okay. Hey, Paul. So I'm getting a bounce. I'm assuming this is for a squat. Just don't know if it's the correct bounce. I don't know if I'm still going too fast. Yes, you were dropping into the bottom before. And loose, but I get the bounce like an invisible trampoline underneath me. I don't believe it is my belly because it feels like a stretch underneath me. I just noticed the video that my right foot seems to move during the rep. After the first one, it's very subtle. Question for you, is there a piece of tape on the floor behind me? Oh, there is a piece of tape on the floor behind me. Are the general steps for the squat shove the knees out and forward while shoving the hips back? And then should I be actively trying to touch the tape with my butt, or what would the step-by-step be? Am I confused about the sit back versus sit down? Let's take a look before we get into all that stuff. Let's see what we got. Okay. Very nice. These are great, man. Yeah. Okay. Your cadence is great. Like your speed is great. You are, let's see here. I'm going to close the windows a little bit. Let's get a little bright. Yeah. This is not heavy for you at all. Okay. So, I mean, these are very good. Looks like you got the bounce. Yeah, your depth looks solid. I mean, look at that. That's perfect depth. Upper back looks pretty tight. Driving the hips up. Let me see your hip drive on these a little bit. Oops, I don't need volume. Yeah. You're becoming a little bit more vertical at the bottom. It's subtle. It's not, I wouldn't even worry about it. I think, so I would like to see a little bit more aggressive hip drive. You're doing everything right, okay? But I want to see this pop up a little more, okay? Right now, it's like, it's very subtle. I want to see it more of a pop. Like, hit the bounce and pop it up. Now, don't drop your chest. You're doing a good job hanging onto the back angle, but just bounce it and pop it up. Okay, like a little bit more aggressive. The main thing here, dude, is this is not heavy enough. So while I get it, you're trying to dial the form in, heavier weight will teach you how to do this correctly. And this, you could get away with murder with this weight. So you need to make it heavier so that you have to struggle, so that you can feel the difference between when you do a rep correctly and when you do one incorrectly. You're not going to be able to tell if you just come out of the bottom with this weight and use no hip drive and just lift your chest right out of the bottom. It's going to be the same speed as if you did it with hip drive because it's not hard. But if you have a weight that's like challenging and you lift your chest too soon, your bar speed is going to just stick. Like you're going to hit this sticking point and it's going to be like, you're going to notice it. You're going to feel it right away. Okay. So instead, like you got to put enough weight on there where you can tell the difference between, like when you use hip drive, it's going to fly up and that you'll be like, that rep was noticeably faster and easier than the one I did before. What was the difference? Oh, I drove my hips instead of lifting my chest. Okay. So like, that's a big one. Get more weight on the bar. Okay. But these are great. You're getting the bounce. Your depth is solid. Everything looks good. A little bit more aggressive hip drive. Like, and again, the heavier weight will teach you to like really pop the hips out of it. Like you'll feel it more. You don't have to right now because it's so light. But don't worry about anything else. All of your other questions that you had for me, like the tape and the whole thing, the knees look good. You're lifting your chest a little early there, right? So I'm nitpicking here. You're starting to open up your hips a little sooner than I would like you to on the way up. So the cue I always tell people is lean over and stay leaned over longer. Like Lean over right away on the way down, like set your back angle right away on the way down, and then stay leaned over as long as you can on the way up. Lean over on the way down and stay leaned over as long as you can on the way up. So trying to hang on to that back angle a little bit higher, stay in the hips, keep driving the legs, and then when you get closer to the top, lift your chest, okay? But you're not far off, okay? I'm like I said, I'm nitpicking here. So yeah, this is great. It needs to be a lot heavier, like a lot heavier. What do you got in here? Like 115? I mean, that's nothing for you. I don't know how much you weigh, but that's like, we need 315 on that bar ASAP. So piece of tape on the floor, shove the knees out. Yes, you shove the knees out while shoving the hips back. You're doing that great. Should I be actively trying to touch the piece of tape with my butt? Whatever you're thinking about right now while you're doing this squat, just keep thinking about that, okay? Because that's right. Just keep doing that. and now that you have it, clear that from your mind, because so you have less to think about. So you can pick the one cue, like I need more aggressive hip drive on the way up here, okay? The rest of it, like you want to think of as few things as possible while you're lifting. So your only cue is really more aggressive hip drive, pop my hips harder, and then stay leaned over a little longer on the way up before I start lifting my chest. The rest of the movement, you're good. You don't have to, you can wipe that from your brain. Maybe down the line when we get more weight on here, some other issues will come back into play. But for right now, like, you're golden. So next time I'm not sure if you're using kilos or whatever, but this looks like, I think this is 115, if I'm not mistaken, 25 and a 10. Yeah, I mean, I want to see 225 like right away. You should be able to do 225 right now, but be conservative. Don't go crazy. But let's get some weight on there so we can actually deal with some real problems. Okay. And you'll be able to learn more fighting heavyweight. You'll learn a lot more fighting heavyweight. So you have my full permission. This form is like totally acceptable for you to start piling some weight on there. Start making 10-pound jumps, make some 20-pound jumps. Find the point where your form starts to break down, and then, start like a little bit less than that. Okay. And the next time you post, I want to see something heavy. All right. Thank you for submitting. I appreciate it. This was, you're doing great, like way better than before. And I'm excited for you. Like, you're going to be a strong squatter. We're going to get 405 on there. Like, no doubt in my mind. Okay. So keep up the good work. Okay. Let's move on to, we got two more. My man, DrKudos. Let's see how he's doing this week. I'm working on hip drive. It shows up a lot more on my warm-up set than on my top set. Okay. So I have two videos. All right. Well, let's look at the top set and then we'll go to the warm set because I always want to see the heavy one. And here we go. All right. Hip drive. Hey, okay. All right, let me not get too excited yet. There it is. Okay. Yes. Okay. So you're all right, let's finish this out and see if I can find, nope. That one you shifted. You tried to lift your chest a little too soon there. That's zero hip drive. Okay. We've got the gist here. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, let's go. And you said it was better on your warm-up. So I want to find a bright spot for you so that we can celebrate that. And, you have like a reference. Okay. So this is, I think we dealt with this with you before, this scooping thing. Notice how your hips push back, like up and back. That's not what we want. We want up. straight up. It's not a circular thing. So let me go through this again and find one that's like where you kind of nail it, because like the best one. You're not committing to the hip drive here. It's like you're testing it. Like, yeah, just lift. That was the best one so far. Number 2. That was, so this is a common thing. You start lifting the chest, then you remember to drive the butt. So it's like chest, that's no hip drive. And I think the last one has no hip drive too. So we're going to skip. We're going to look at number 2 again. So we'll look at number 1. This is like, I forgot to hip drive, then I'm going to hip drive. And then not bad, but I think this is the best one. Yeah, notice your hips on this one. Wait, now I can't remember which one. Okay, this is number 1. And then we're going to go to number 2. Okay, so notice how your hips go straight up and down on this one. Just boom, straight up, okay? And you even hit this little sticking point where you start to lift your chest, but then you go back to driving your hips. So you're just holding on to that back angle and you're pushing your butt straight up, which is exactly what I want. Now let's watch this one. So that one, the hips start to push back more. And that one was no hip drive. And I think this last one has no hip drive either. Yeah, no hip drive on that one. Okay, so 2 is, I think that was 1. I think this is 2. Leaned over, boom, constant back angle the whole way up. That's what I want. So excellent job, first of all. Like, you did one. I told you, show me hip drive. And maybe I told you to make it feel like it was too much hip drive. And maybe that's how this felt. I don't know what you were feeling when you did this rep, but you need to remember because you need to be thinking about this. Whatever this was, that's what you're thinking about, because this produced that, what was going on in your head produced a correct rep. And the deal is you got your back angle here, right? And so when I push play, we're going to see this pop up, and then we're going to see after this moves up a couple inches and clearly shows me you started the drive up with your hips with this part. This angle is going to stay the same. It's going to travel. It's not going to change. It's not going to become more vertical. You're not going to lift it. You're not going to drop it. It's like pop and then constant, and then you stand up at the top. And your hips are going to go straight up. They're not going to go back and up. Okay, that's not what we want. So let's see here. Let's watch your butt. Boom. See that? See, this is a weight distribution issue. Okay. And it's a non-issue right now because your weight is perfectly balanced over the middle of your foot. The pressure on your foot right here, okay, it's like perfectly even. I can tell. Every other rep, it's not. Every other rep, it's more on the toes, and then as you drive back, you're shifting back onto the heels, and the back angle changes. So let's see in this rep if we can see, like if we notice that your back angle doesn't change, right? It's perfect. And then you start to unlock it. But let's watch the next rep, and we'll see your hips push back a little bit more. Right? So now look at the difference here, right? You probably can't tell, but you're more leaned over because you've pushed your butt back instead of just straight up. You went back and up. So the weight is shifting back onto your heels, okay, like this. And because of that, because everything's moving back, in order to keep this over the middle of the foot, you have to lean over more, right? To keep the back angle is going to have to become more horizontal to stay over the middle of the foot. Because if you start pushing the system back like this, right, now here's the midfoot, here's the bar. So to fix it, you've got to lean over more to get it back over there, and then the whole thing's off. All right. So I think the cue here, that's gonna hopefully lock this in for you is, and I'm sure I've told you this before, which is keep the weight over the middle of your foot. Keep even pressure on the toes and the heels, but keep even pressure on the toes and the heels as you're driving up, okay? Think about like when with a deadlift, you're pushing against the floor straight down. You're just, all that force is going straight down through the middle of your foot, okay? When you're coming up on the squat, it's the same thing. The bar's just on your back instead of in your hands. But all the angles are set, and now you're just trying to, if this is the floor and this is your chest, you're just trying to increase this distance by pushing with your legs and then standing up later. But we're pushing and we're maintaining the angles, okay? And you're just pushing straight down. So that means the weight has to stay perfectly even across the surface of your foot. And you nailed it on this one, and that's why this rep looks good. So distilling down all this explanation into something you can actually think about is, as you're driving up, push like the weight midfoot. It's even pressure on the toes and the heels, and as you push, you're pushing evenly straight down. And that pressure gradient never changes. If it goes to your heels, it's wrong. If it goes to your toes, it's wrong. Okay, so by the time you get to a balanced bottom position, okay, so let's go back to the good one. So you're here, balanced bottom position, right? So the pressure is even right here. All you have to do from this position is move your body in a way that keeps that weight and that pressure across the foot exactly where it is right now. You managed to get to the bottom and be even and balanced. Now you got to come up even and balanced. So all it is just focus on keeping that weight even, toes and heels, same amount, and just pushing. Just push straight down and everything will take care of itself. Okay? Hold the back angle, drive with the hips, but don't push back. Push straight up, okay? Because back means heels and that changes the back angle, okay? So, beautiful, beautiful job, man. Boom, look at that. Perfect balance. Okay, notice if you think about your chest, right down, and there's the floor. You're trying to increase this distance, right? There's the floor, there's your chest. All you're doing is trying to increase that distance. You're not changing that angle. You're changing this angle for sure, right? Because you're using your legs. But this stays the same. This is leading the way up. And the goal here is put more space between these 2 points and keep the weight perfectly balanced here and here. And if you do that and you keep your chest pointed straight down at the floor for as long as you can, it's going to come up perfectly. Okay? So now I know you can do it. Now I know you can hip drive, right? And whatever it felt like, whatever you were thinking about, make it feel like that every time. Okay? Boom. Beautiful. Fantastic rep, man. Like, absolutely fantastic. So that's what we want. That's your homework for this time, is I want more reps that look like that and fewer. Don't push. See that? See that lag at the end where the final few inches of this is just pure hip extension because you already extended your knees almost completely, right? See that? Your knees are almost fully extended, but you're still leaned over like this because you had to drop your back angle because you had all the weight on your heels. I mean, you can see it. Look at this. Look at this angle here, right? Look at this angle, right? All the weight is back here. The back angle had to change way more horizontally. And then your knees are done pushing and you still have this much of this angle to open up of the hip angle, right? These should come to, the knees should fully extend at the same time the hips fully extend at the top, right? They should both extend evenly. Like, you got to time it right so that as you get to the top, the hips lock and the knees lock at the same time. If they don't, I mean, again, look at this angle here, right? So this is almost locked out and this is still, I mean, you've still got like, it's like 90 degrees almost. Let's go back and look at the good one, my favorite one, and see how this one looks. Was that the first one or the second one? We're going to find out. Yeah. Okay, now. So now we've got the same angle here, right, that we had in the other one. Okay, and look how much less of an angle we have here. That's better. That you got the timing better because it was even and both joints were extending at the same time the way they're supposed to. Okay, so that's what we want. Your entire focus on the way up is pushing. You might have to think a little bit about having more pressure on your toes because your tendency is to go to your heels. So keep more weight on the balls of your feet on the way up and just push straight down. Like again, imagine you're in a leg press machine with a sled and you're pushing. You're just pushing that sled away from your chest. Same thing here. It's a standing leg press. You're down at the bottom. And all you're doing from here, I mean, I could just rotate you and you'd be in a leg press machine. And now the hips have to start it, but you just push straight down, just like a deadlift, just like you're trying to push a deadlift away from the floor. Okay? So great job, man. Like really proud of you. This is like a beautiful rep. And now you screwed yourself because I know you can do it. So now I'm not going to accept anything less than this without shaming you mercilessly. Yeah, you nailed it, buddy. So more of these, okay? Whatever you were thinking about, let's get some more of those. All right, let's move on. I think we got one more for today. And here we go. Camps 80. All right. Have at it. Appreciate you taking a look. Be gentle. First set of 5 in 5 weeks due to an injury. 170 pounds down from 190 5 weeks ago. Wow. Third set. Left ankle heavily braced. Okay, well, that may play a part in this. Let's take a look and see what we see. So we'll watch a few of these. All right, so this angle is not super helpful. It would be good to get a little higher up and over to the side, but you're in a public gym and we can deal with this for today. But I can't evaluate your stance width. It looks a little narrow, but it's really impossible to tell from here. So 45 degrees to the rear so I could see a little bit better angle would be good next time. No big deal. Bar position looks good. Some hip drive. Yeah, so you got the same thing that the other guy had where the hips are kind of pushing up and back. If you watch your butt here, you're going to see them go back and up, right? A little bit. But the big issue here is what's happening with your knees, which is they're tracking forward all the way down. So if I slow this down and we just pay attention to your knees, just watch your knees here and you'll see them move forward all the way down and then back. Okay? So, and it looks like you're a little, because of that, you're a little too upright at the bottom. Oh, we got a little heel lift too. This may have to do with your ankle brace, limiting your range of motion. Oh, wow. Okay, let's look at that one. I'm going to zoom in here. Watch this heel right here. Watch here. Whoop. See that? So all your weight is going forward to the point that your heel is actually lifting off the ground. See if it does it on this one. Yeah. So this is kind of, there's a lot going on here. And again, I don't know what's happening with the ankle brace limiting your flexibility, but it seems like you're trying to stay a little too upright, and it's almost like you've got the bar in the low bar position, but you're trying to do a high bar squat, maintaining a vertical back angle, not leaning over enough on the way down, and bouncing off your knees instead of bouncing off your hips. Okay, so I'm going to give you some things to look at. So if you look at the difference in your back angle on the way down. Okay, let me see if I can. All right, so here's your back angle right now. Okay, it's kind of like that. And then we'll watch the back angle you assume on the way up. There we go. See that? You're much more leaned over here. Okay, so you're kind of coming down vertically, and then as you drive your butt up, your body's going to assume, oh no, I froze. Okay. Your body's going to assume the position that it's going to be most powerful in to drive up. Okay, which means a more leaned over, more horizontal back angle. That's going to give you more hip drive, more power from the legs on the way up. So you want to assume this back angle on the way down so that it doesn't change. Okay, so by the time you get to the bottom of the squat, you want this back angle. And then from there, you drive up, right? And you pop the hips, but you maintain that leaned over position. So like I told the last guy, you got to lean over more right away, and you got to stay leaned over longer on the way up. Lean over right away, stay leaned over as long as you can on the way up. So when you get to the bottom of each rep, you should be in the position you're going to drive up in. You don't want to assume that position as you're driving up, right? Because that's going to shift the weight around. The bar's going to make like a non-vertical bar path. So you just got to lean over faster. See how you're trying to keep your chest, as you go down, you're trying to keep your chest pointed at the wall, okay? You should be here by now, okay? Don't point your nipples at the wall, point your nipples at the floor, okay? And this arch you're doing right here on the way down, we've talked about this before. I know this is your first video, but if you watch your upper back as you start the squat, you're gonna take a breath and then you're gonna lean over. It's subtle, but you're trying to arch so you're here, and then as you go down, you're flaring your chest up. So as you squat, it's like you start the descent and flare it as you're descending. What you want to do instead is set that upper back position before you start moving. So standing up at the top, big breath, that's when you puff your chest up. Okay, before you've started the squat. So you take a big breath, chest up, arch the upper back, right? Nice and tight. And then with that position, right? Up, arch tight. Then the movement when you start the actual descent is this. So this whole segment doesn't deform. You don't try and arch on the way down because you already set it. Okay, this is rigid now, up and tight, and then you just hinge over at the waist. So if you imagine you've got a point here that you're pointing at the wall, your goal is to point that down basically like 6 inches in front of your toes. So you're just going to take it from here and lean over with your back. I shouldn't have rounded my back like that, but I set my back up here and then I just lean over so that tightness I set before I started the rep, it's exactly the same tightness. I never let it go. I'm still arched up at the bottom. I'm just more horizontal. And then I've hit that. I've set the back angle. And as I drive up, everything's where it should be. I'm not coming down here and then shifting as I drive back up. Okay. So big breath, chest up, hold it, and then just immediately lean over right away. Lean over and shove the knees forward and out right away. So 2 things happen at the same time. You lean over and you shove your knees forward and out right away. And then you just take it down and then stay leaned over on the way up. Now, another issue here, we got a lot, is that knee slide, okay? So if we watch your knees, like I said, they travel forward all the way down, okay? You're bouncing off your knees, which is gonna piss your knees off, by the way, over time. So instead what you wanna do is, and I'll mark this for you, so if this is where your knees end up, right here, okay? And we're gonna say like, maybe this little like, they're almost to the, like just before the upright. You want your knee there by the time you're halfway down. So if we go back and we look at where they are at the halfway point, so right about there, see you've got too much gap here. They should already be here, okay? So by the time you're halfway down, your knees should be here and you should have, your back angle should be established. Knee position and back angle. Both of those are set by the halfway point, Okay. And then from this point on, the second half of the descent, it's all about reaching back with the hips, right? Stretching out those adductor muscles. Okay. So you lean over right away, set your knees as far forward and out as they're ever going to be by the halfway point. And then the second half of the descent is hips back and down. So the first half is knees forward and out, and the second half is hips back and down, because the hips back and down part is where you stretch out the groin muscles to create that bounce. And in order to do that, you're going to be more leaned over. All right, so here's what you're going to practice, and then you're going to do another video for me next time. If you go to hornstrength.com/videos and you go down to, oh, I got my little drawing tool on. What's happening here? Okay, why can't I control this? There we go. hornstrength.com/videos. Couple things. First of all, down here, what should the knees and hips do in the squat? Okay, so make sure you watch this video. This is me from a while ago talking about what the knees and the hips do in the squat. And exactly what I was talking about, setting the knees early, and I draw a cool scissor lift, and then I show you how to use this pipe to show that the knees, let's see if I do it here. So we're using that pipe to mark where the knees go in the squat, right away by the halfway point, and then the rest of it is stretching back in the butt. Okay. So that video explains it in depth. You'll get a good understanding of what I'm talking about. You can practice that drill. And then the other thing, you don't need to see that. The other thing I want you to see is, which will help, is under legs on same thing, hornstrength.com/videos, pause squats. Okay, so this will help you. If you open this YouTube video and you read the description, I have all the instructions of what you're supposed to be thinking about and how to do this exercise. But the idea is you're gonna learn what it feels like to land in a perfect balanced bottom position without having to make any adjustments. So that means leaned over all the way, knees out as hard as they can, upper back extended. It didn't round on the way down. You've got to pause down there to feel all that stuff. And if anything needs to be corrected, you can correct it. You can register the correction. Okay, this is what it's supposed to feel like, and then you come back up. I practice these every time I squat for empty bar, my first set with weight, and it just reminds me what a tight, balanced bottom position feels like. So read through those, watch those 2 videos, practice the pause squats, practice getting out of your knees, right? By the time you're halfway down, your knee should not move any further forward. If it does, that means you're bouncing off your knees instead of your hips. And like I said, that's going to piss your knees off. So check those out and do another one and throw it up next week, and we'll keep dialing it in. But overall, these are just real common things. And if you've been out of practice for a little bit, then it's all to be expected, and it's pretty easily fixed once you feel that bottom position, which again, is what the pause squats teach you, to what it feels like to be perfectly balanced at the bottom. Okay. Thanks for the submission. Glad to have you here, and welcome to the community. I think we did it, guys. I think we got through it, an hour and 14, something like that. Thank you all for participating. I hope this was useful. It was certainly fun for me, and keep an eye out for the announcement of Radically Simple Muscle. The paperback version will be out soon, probably Monday or something like that. And I'll let you guys know. But thanks as always for being a part of it. And I love doing this every week. And I love to see your progress. And you guys are just like, some get it easier than others, but we're getting there with everybody. And the cool thing is that you guys are sticking with it. You're not getting frustrated and quitting. So I'll keep doing it as long as you guys need me. And I will see you in a week. Have a wonderful week, and we'll do it all again. All right. Thanks, guys.